There's been a lot of discussion lately in the occupational health and safety profession regarding risk management insurance and the waiver of subrogation in terms of the ISNetworld review process. So what I thought I would do today is put some information out there about the waiver of subrogation, a little bit about the process, and what I believe some best tips or best practices would be in order to properly address the waiver of subrogation issue. Firstly, any ISNetworld account holder will have access to the insurance section under the Document Center, where you can go in and see what the specific requirements are. And if you need a general guideline on how to do that, just hit pause and take some notes off of what's on screen right now in terms of how to do that. So nonetheless, you'll need to get access to the exact requirements for your particular owner client. And the odds are likely that your owner client is going to require a waiver of subrogation. Now, in addition to the insurance coverage requirements for general liability, automobile liability, or any excess or umbrella policies, the waiver of subrogation is usually a requirement in addition to that. However, there are certain ways in some states where you can enhance or better protect your company in terms of company interest by properly managing the waiver of subrogation. Now, the best way to do that is always to work with your insurance broker, because there is a great deal of regulation in the risk management and insurance profession, and so laws will vary from state to state. So first, let's go over just a general idea of what the waiver of subrogation is. The waiver of subrogation is basically a legal term that means your company is giving up some legal rights to a lawsuit, claim, or discussion, especially if another company, particularly the owner client in most cases, causes or has some play or some part in some type of accident or incident. In the oil and gas industry, I can tell you that when we look at master service agreements, there's a very curious expression amongst health and safety professionals and risk managers where we say, the waiver of subrogation is a clause that maintains, if you mess up, we sue you. If you mess up, we sue you. And in a nutshell, the waiver of subrogation can be described in such a way. And this can be very dangerous in terms of a claim being put onto your particular insurance policy, even when your company is not directly at fault, which, as most of you can tell, can be quite dangerous. So my recommendation is that whenever possible, a company should definitively avoid a blanket waiver of subrogation. A waiver of subrogation should be qualified whenever possible and allowable by law. And I talked to a couple insurance brokers that are licensed in several states, and so on this particular screen I have some verbiage that a lot of insurance brokers like to qualify the waiver of subrogation with. And as you can tell, if you read this paragraph, or you want to put it on pause for a moment, you can see that the waiver of subrogation can apply when your company is at fault or negligent in some way. And you can see how the waiver of subrogation cannot apply in cases where the additional insured is the negligent party. This is very important because it helps to protect your company's interests against claims that come back that maybe your company didn't directly cause. And so this is really, really important in order to best insure your company against claims that aren't appropriate and most of all aren't really fair. And so again, always speak to your insurance broker and agent about the exact requirements. And I can tell you that the ISNetworld review process for insurance is going to look at, in most cases, unless otherwise directed, ISN is going to review whether or not a waiver of subrogation exists, whether that's an addendum or on the certificate of insurance somewhere, mostly in the description of operations box towards the bottom. And so their review process, just to be clear, is going to be, does this company have a waiver of subrogation or not? And they're not really going to investigate whether or not that's qualified in an addendum or not. So that can be a good tool for you and your company in order to best approach this issue. So a question I get is, well, if we qualify the waiver of subrogation with this particular verbiage, where possible, where legal, can we still make it through the review process? And most of the time, that's going to be a yes, unless the owner client is cognizant of this fact and makes an attempt to require a blanket waiver of subrogation. At that point, a company's got to determine whether or not to proceed with that contract, whether or not the revenue justifies that kind of risk. And so the business management aspects really kick in at that point. So to kind of summarize what we're discussing here is I'd like to provide you with some tips on how to best proceed. First and foremost, insurance is so regulated, it varies from state to state. There are some states where workers' compensation is regulated by the state. Wyoming and North Dakota are two examples. Ohio and Washington are the other two monopolistic workers' compensation insurance states. And so workers' compensation is one issue, general liability is another, professional liability, automotive liability, excess and umbrella policies are all going to be regulated by state, and interstate commerce can be quite a challenging issue at times for insurance coverages. And if you add to the mix going out of the country, say in Canada, Australia, or maybe the UK, insurance can be even more complicated. So we always recommend that you work with your insurance broker in order to determine the right amount of coverage, the proper way to protect your company's interests. Now, one thing I'll tell you in my experience is that insurance brokers usually don't address the waiver of subrogation issue unless you ask about it. And so it's always important to bring that up, and please don't be surprised when the insurance broker says, oh, well, we need to get with the underwriter about this issue to see if we can do it. Some of the best insurance brokers that I know, if they're not familiar with an issue, they're going to double check and get with an individual that can help them out. But again, whenever you can qualify that waiver of subrogation to meet the phraseology that we previously discussed, I would recommend that strongly. Again, determine what's right for your company. Make sure that your interests and your company is protected in the best possible way. Review the costs associated with an insurance claim on your insurance. Figure out what acceptable risk is, even though that doesn't sound right to most people. Figure out what that is and then measure that against the costs. And always know what you're agreeing to when you submit a certificate of insurance. For example, this doesn't just apply to the waiver of subrogation. If you don't understand a term, if you don't understand a definition, ask your insurance broker what you're agreeing to. And so if you get educated, then you can learn and you keep that knowledge with you, and you can help to spread that around to other people who might not know as well. And the biggest point that I'll try to make again as we wrap up this presentation is to always try your hardest to avoid a blanket waiver of subrogation. From a risk management perspective, it just seems pretty dangerous. And I'll end with this one more time. Just because you qualify a waiver of subrogation doesn't necessarily mean you cannot pass the ISNetworld review process. So my recommendation is to try it and see if you can do that and to get a successful review. This presentation has been produced and brought to you by MW Consulting, LLC. If you'd like to contact us directly, our number is 1-800-856-2054, or feel free to contact us online or via email. One important thing to remember is there's an intellectual property rights disclaimer at the bottom of the screen. MW Consulting is not endorsed or affiliated with ISNetworld. We're a third-party safety management consulting firm, and I just want to make that clear. And thank you for listening in. Have a great day.